Well, I'm so happy that you're here. I've been wanting to have you on forever because since day one, you've been absolutely crushing it. I obviously know you, kind of know your story, have looked up to you since you got here. But for anybody who doesn't, can you kind of give us like the background, how long you've been here, what you were doing before, the whole deal?
Yeah, for sure. And cut me off too if I go on a tangent. I just need you to help redirect the ADD a little bit. But one, you guys, I'm super grateful to be here. I will tell you this, it's pretty wild to like before I even got into this industry, I knew who Marissa was and I knew she was in the industry and I've seen her do, what she does. So to be at a point where she's asking me to get on your guys' team call, that's super special for me. So don't sleep on that because if you're on here and you're like just starting out, no matter where you're at in your life, like over a 6 month, year, 2 year period, like you really, really can change your life with this opportunity. So to give you guys a little background so you can kind of feel like you know me, because I think that's huge. So quick fun fact, I grew up on an island in Washington, like super small island. It's like 17 miles long. There's no stoplights, there's no fast food. Like you're getting there by boat, float plane, or a ferry, right? So I grew up like pretty sheltered for the most part. But I always had huge dreams. I remember when I was like 15, I moved off the island, moved to a bigger city, and that's kind of where like things shifted for me where I was like, okay, I'm in the big leagues. I was actually in a place that had like stoplights, there was fast food, it felt like a city. I felt like I was moving on up. So I just want to give you guys a little background on like work history and stuff like that, because here's the thing, I've always been a troublemaker my entire life. Like I was not the kid that had straight A grades at all, right? I was the guy that was at the skate park. I wanted to get done with school. I wanted to play sports. And I reached a point in high school where sports was like all I did. That's what I lived for. I thought I was going to go pro. I was in the gym every day. I was showing up. I was doing the work. Like I would practice until the sun went down. That's one thing my mom will always say about me. Like you would be outside practicing until the sun went down. And something that happened for me, which was like a huge life shift, was when I was 16, I was capped out on how many concussions I could have. So it was like a huge thing. And it was like, it shifted my ego, it shifted my purpose, it changed my friend group, and it changed like everything about me because that's like what I was planning on doing with my life. Like it was either baseball or football. And like when you take that away, it definitely shifted where I was heading. So the reason I tell you that is because it's going to work into something where the team that I've built today. So moving forward, I got in a lot of trouble as a kid. I come from a long line of drug addicts and alcoholics. This is not a lie either. Every single person on both sides of my family is drug addict and or alcoholic. So that's something I grew up around. That's something I've struggled with personally. And it's also, through going like through those experiences, it's brought me to the point where I'm at now. So when I started FFL, kind of skipping through here a little bit because I'll go off on a tangent. I had just gotten out of rehab. I went to a business overview meeting. Marissa was there. Sean Mike was there. And I remember I was sitting there and Sean Mike kind of like picked on me in the crowd a little bit. He was like, look at this guy in the sunglasses looking all jacked and whatever. And I remember being like, I'm super nervous to do this because my life was at the lowest it had ever been. Like I've owned multiple businesses, multiple companies, started my first one when I was 19, clothing, wholesale clothing, digital marketing, like really have gotten out of my comfort zone. But like the drugs and alcohol, like I do really good. And I couldn't figure out that I'm just a guy that I can't have one drink. Like my team name is All or Nothing. I am all or nothing in every single area of my life. Right. So I'm sitting in this business overview meeting. And after I remember Sean Mike walks up to me and he's like, what's up, dude? And we have a conversation. And I remember him bringing something up about needing help with contracting, right? Because I brought something up with legal stuff, and I have a past history, right? I got into a lot of trouble when I was younger, so I was worried about being able to get my license. So, long story short, after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this test. I studied, I went through all the motions, and I passed. I was shocked. because I don't have the highest IQ for test taking. And once I passed, because of my legal record, it took me another 6 months to be able to get my license. It was like 5, 6 months. So I was so ready for this opportunity. I had just sold a digital marketing company and I had planned everything out to be able to like, tee this opportunity up to the best of my ability. And like by the time I got licensed, I was at a point where I had $200 to my name. I had over $30,000 in medical bills. I had racked up credit cards. And I was at a point where I had a super expensive Jeep, a decent place. And it was like the last 30 days I could exist doing that before like my life goes from like, hey, it looks good from the outside. Like my teeth are white, I brush them, my car looks cool, it's clean, I got a place, to like I am homeless and at rock bottom again. So once I got licensed, I started with one insurance carrier, good old American Amicable. For whatever reason, they accepted me. And I remember feeling so excited, right? Because I had the gift of desperation. Like I came from a point, without going too in depth to it, but you guys, I came from a point where I was like dead in a hospital bed, and like it was a miracle that I was like still even alive. And getting to that point where I was at rock bottom, like I had the gift of desperation. Like my ego was removed. I was at a point where I'm willing to do life like another man's way. And that was one of the best gifts that I've ever gotten in my life, because I realized like I don't have life all the way figured out. There's some things that I'm great and excel at, but like I reached a point where I was like, hey, I'm willing to listen to other people. Like I'm done taking advice or listening to advice, but not actually applying it. So once I got that first insurance carrier, I remember I wrote eight grand my first week. I had teed this business up because I was broke. I was like posting on social media. I was like, I got to be creative, because like if I don't have a check hit, I'm done. Right. So I teed all this stuff up where I posted on social media. I was like, hey, if you have insurance, if you're looking for insurance, or you can send me a referral, right? I'll give you a gift card, like whatever I need to do to make that happen. And right when I got my license, I wrote 4 insurance applications. And before that even hit, I spent the last $200, no bullshit, the last $200 to my name on leads through ILC. So I was at a point where like right out the gate, like I was all in. I was like committed to this business to the highest degree. And from that point forward, like, to be honest with you, like because I had the gift of desperation and like my life going down so low, where like from that point forward, I have exercised this opportunity to the fullest degree. Right? People come on and they get contracted and they're like, "Oh, I'm waiting for all my other insurance carriers to come back so I can start writing." I'm like, "Dude, I had one and I was like, let's go." Where a lot of people don't fully understand how much of a luxury it is for us to have 6, 7, 8 carriers, right? And then later on, advanced market products and all these other things. But like what I truly, truly realize is like if you show up every single day, regardless of like where you're at, what's going on in your life, whatever the circumstances are, whatever cards you've been dealt, if you show, excuse my language, but if you show the fuck up every single day, you can get to wherever I've gotten, which there's so many more levels. Like I'm trying to get to where Marissa's at. I want to get to where Sean Mike's at. You know what I mean? Like through this process, I've truly realized that like anything is possible. And if I could plug my brain into yours and you could see some of the life experiences that I've had, that most people are like limiting beliefs. Like I have a horrible criminal record. Most people are like, oh, I have a criminal record, I can't get into the life insurance game. I've done the work. I've gotten sober. I've changed my life. I've changed every single area of my life, right? I show up daily. I've done the work to figure out why I was that way. This is outside of business, but I go to therapy. And my advice is if you're making over $10,000 a month, you should be going to therapy, right? Like you have the money. I have a great therapist if you need somebody to go to, but like I really am at a point in my life where I only do business with people at a high level where they pay for therapy, they're on point, they're in check, they're not going out on the weekends, and they show up, because that's what set the tone for me. And like that's what I look up to. And Marissa, like you guys are on a team where Marissa is like the most badass female in the insurance industry that shows up and like does all the stuff that she asks you guys to do. Right. And there's not a lot of people that set the tone like that. So like I one thing I notice is like people on my team, they've heard me talk so much that it doesn't hit the same way. But when I come onto a call like this, I watch the chat and people are like, let's go. But people on my team are kind of sick of hearing my story and what's going on. But like, I want to validate like the person whose team you guys are on, like she sets the tone. She's super consistent. Like she's built the life and the lifestyle that you guys want to have. And it's like paved the way for people like me. Because, dude, when I started in this business, I was at a point where life was so bad and I was hung up financially and there was a lot of stuff going on dynamically, family wise. I had just had two of my best friends pass away, where I was like, I don't really know what life looks like moving forward. Like my friends I moved down to Arizona with had passed away. Everyone else I knew moved away after that because they were just freaked out. And like I was at a point where it's like, what am I going to do? And I like dug my feet, one more F bomb. I dug my feet into the fucking ground and like chose to stay here and chose to do the work and chose to get uncomfortable and chose to dial when everybody got off Zoom, right? I chose to dial when I was broke, when I had made money, when things were going good, when family members had passed away, when friends had passed away. Like I've gone through some like really traumatic stuff in this business and I've pushed through. And guess what? Because I've done that, I have become I went from the most unreliable person in my family, like the most unreliable person, to the most reliable person in my family without a doubt, which is an amazing thing. And like I bring that up because this business and like this opportunity has gifted me so many different things that are way higher forms of currency than money. Right? The money's great. I made 60 G's last month. I made 58 the month before. And I don't mean that in a flex way, but like, that's like, I want you to know I got my license in December I've had my license for like 20 months. Right. And I've just been super consistent. And when I watch people stop working or I watch people get paid and I watch people make money, they're like, hey, I'm going to go on this vacation. I stayed in work. I stayed in work. Like people are celebrating stuff. I'm like, dude, what are you celebrating? Like you got 10 G's in your bank account. Like what happens if something happens? Like what if an emergency happens? Like I need the rainy day fund. I need the my mom set up fund. I need the money for the car. I need the money for the new place. I need the money for retirement, health insurance, life insurance, like all that stuff. So and I want to go into a couple other things too, but like I really just want to set the tone. Like no matter who you are, where you're from, what your education level is, whether you're a criminal, whether you got a clean record, like whatever it is, I love this opportunity so much because there's probably people that have a master's degree on here, but guess what? I leverage this opportunity way more than you do every single day. And it's a level playing field. Like it doesn't matter. You can have all these degrees and all this knowledge and that's great. But like we are all the same when we show up and it's a daily thing. Like it's a daily reprieve. And I've been taught that through getting sober and like really doing the internal work because me staying sober, it's a daily thing, right? My work ethic, it's a daily thing. Like the work I did yesterday, I don't wake up today and it's like, oh, I'm reaping all the rewards of that. You do that for 6 months, yes, you will start reaping the rewards of what you did 6 months ago. So right now, like where my team's at, where I'm at mentally, where I'm at physically, where I'm at spiritually, like it's all an accumulation of like what I woke up and did 6 months ago. So that's a little background. Sorry if I just went off on a tangent, but I think those things are really important because you guys can literally come back from like any walk of life and like wake up tomorrow and be like, this is the day. No BS. Like this is the day. But you have to do that. You got to make the consistent actions to do that. So
I, I love that word. I mean, that's amazing. And I think that speaks so much to exactly what you said. Like, I always say this, Christo, it's like we're the land of the misfits, right? And like, this is just the opportunity. Like, you guys, no one woke up one day and was like, you know what? I think life insurance. I think I want to be a life insurance agent. Like, no one's like, I want to be that when I grow up. Like, you find yourself here and you have this opportunity in front of you that like really is just a matter of what you make it 100%. So, Christo, a lot of people come into this business and they have no money. I had no money when I came in. I was just like you. I was like, hey, here's my last $300 and let me borrow the rest of my money from my sister. And some people use that to hold them back. Like, they're like, this is my last $200. What made you be like, hey, this is my last $200 instead of keeping it because this is all I have? I'm just going to invest it and see if this freaking thing works. Like, were you freaked out by that?
So the thing about being a recovering addict is like I've put myself in positions in life that are like I'm like backed up against like 17 walls and like in some corners where I'm like I don't know if I can get out of this. So one thing I'll say is every negative experience I've ever had in my entire life has teed me up to be in the position I am now, and like be prepared for some of the stuff that we go through in this business and like use it as an asset. Like it used to be a curse, but now it's a blessing. So when I was in that position, was I freaked out? 1000%. Like I was freaked out on so many different levels, and I was having a midlife crisis to the highest degree without getting specific, but it was not good. But I think like here's one thing I'll say. I've had money and I've lost it all. I've been broke, right? When I was younger, like I watched my parents get divorced, foreclose on their house, lose every single thing. We were homeless and house hopping, right? So I know the value of a dollar. It can also make you kind of stingy a little bit too, where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to spend this money. But I've also gone through stuff where I owned a business and I knew I had to invest in my business to like take a profit, right? It's either sweat equity or you're running ads. And if you do both, you can become a true badass. So when I was at that point, I was extremely fearful. But one thing I'll say is like, I feel like people have this thought process where they glitch out or psych themselves out. Like, dude, if you're broke, be broke. If you're broken, be broken. Right? Like be where you are at. Right? Just be where you're at. I can expose my bank account, I can expose my personal life, I can expose the way I treat somebody in an elevator, like every single thing, it's on point. It's not a facade. It's very transparent and it's very real because I decide to live like exactly where I'm at right now. It doesn't need to be this fluffed up, huge, beautiful thing. I don't have to hide my story and my background. But with that being said, like if you are broke, understand that you're broke. Understand that it is also temporary depending on what you do. Because if you're broke, sweat equity. If you're broke, creativity, right? Everybody know, you all know 20 people that are going to probably buy life insurance or have acquaintances that are going to buy life insurance this year, especially after COVID and all the shit that's going on in the news right now. Like people are like, I should probably get some life insurance, right? People in their 20s are hearing about index universal life and all this stuff. So like, if you're at a point where you're broke, like, why not go all the way broke? Like, why not go all the way broke? Truthfully, like if you got 2, 3, $500 to your name, like it can't really get any worse. Like you're in between like being absolutely zero negative in your bank account and like you can maybe buy like gas and some food and whatever. Like go get yourself some top ramen, buy some leads and go all in. And guess what? If that doesn't work out and you cannot work your warm market, like dude, I tell my people this all the time. If you're broke, you are literally 2 policies away from feeling like $1,000,000. So I'm like, if you're broke, I don't see you posting on social media like, hey, I'm a life insurance broker. I work with all these top A-rated insurance carriers. If you have life insurance, let me price shop for you. Let me see if I can either find you a better deal, a better company, or better benefits.
Yeah.
Value. You can also give gift cards, depending on what state you're in, for up to $100. I've incentivized people legally. You got to make sure you can do this in your state because I'm not going to speak that if you can't. But a gift card, and I've done that for people, right? I'm like, I'm going to have sales warriors out on the street, like hitting the pavement where I'm like, dude, I'll give you $100 whatever gift card to wherever you want. But you have to be creative because you guys, we're in a business where you can reach everybody. $50 a month, you just made $500. $100 a month, you just made a G. right? I don't know any other industry where you could sell a $30 a month policy and make $300. That's insane, but people sleep on it every single day. And guess what? If you wrote a $30, $40 a month policy every single day, you're making like 100K that year.
Yeah.
So
That's
I think like that's a huge thing that people sleep on is like, dude, if you're broke, like it's totally fine. I was insanely broke. I
yeah.
didn't know how I was gonna dig myself out of the hole that I was in. And it's like, just one thing I'll say, and I mean this like with my heart of hearts, like be willing to bet on yourself and get around the right people.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, Christo, there's a lot of times that I see and I just like want to shake people because I feel like everyone just has so much potential, but you see a lot of different things, right? Like you're like, solar sales over here and pest control over here. And like there's all these things that are promoting to us like, hey, this great opportunity. For you, like what did you see that was different about this opportunity that you were like, hey, that's the one? Because like you could have went to solar, you could have went to pest control, you could have went to car sales. Like, why were you like, this opportunity is literally like no other?
So one thing out of my entire family full of drug addicts and alcoholics, right? There's one person that sticks out like a sore thumb, which is my uncle. His name's Eli Morgan. He passed away right when I got licensed and was coming into this industry. He started um, a life insurance company called M Financial. So he actually created some of the products that John Hancock has. I obviously didn't sign on with that company or anything like that, but M Financial is a very, very large company in the financial services space. And I remember going to their house for like Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that and being like, "Hey, this is like a mega mansion and like I don't even know what's going on, but like this is crazy." And I remember asking him, what do you do? Because I didn't really know him that well because he's always traveling and doing stuff. Very disconnected from the rest of my family, which I would be too if I was him, to be honest. But he said, I own a business in the financial services space. Super humble. Never told me anything else other than that. Once I got to an age and I hopped on Google and I was, really understanding stuff, I found the company and did some research on it. And I'm like, oh, it's life insurance. So that was like my first exposure to this business. But to answer the question, like I've seen so many different opportunities and I've also started opportunities and obviously I've ran a couple businesses. Some have worked out, some haven't, but whatever they were, they ended up bringing me here. So there's solar, there's mortgage, there's real estate, there's all this stuff. I have never found something that you can get paid like this, just like boom, boom, boom. And I've never found something that has such a high level of opportunity and such a high commission. Like you guys understand in real estate, at most brokerages, when you do a deal, you're splitting at least 50% with the office, right? Like here at FFL, like we're keeping all, yes, we have to buy leads. Our life is so rough. You're keeping that money, right? You do research at all these other companies, all these other places. Like there are a couple places that start people at 25-30% comp and you still have to buy leads and they survive and they're like, let's get this, we're going after it. Where right, you guys have way higher comp and a way bigger opportunity. But I think the honest reason that I chose this is because like leading back to the sports thing is I've always craved like having a team environment around me. And once I got kicked out of sports for like being medically ineligible, um, I've always wanted to create a team. The company I owned in digital marketing, like I could hire a couple people, but you had to be web designer or you had to really understand like building websites, doing SEO and Facebook ads. So when I found this, I realized like how scalable it could be. And there's no cap on the commission. Like if you're in automotive sales, I was just at an Andy Elliott event, if you guys know who that is, but literally the best sales trainer for the automotive space. Like there's a cap on selling cars. Like if you're a freak of nature, you could do 500 to 700K in a year selling cars. Marissa, is there a cap on selling life insurance and building a team?
No, sir.
Absolutely not. So like in all these industries, they're either capped or the pay is delayed, right? You're in solar. I have people on my team that are still at 30, 40 grand from 6 months ago in solar for installs, right? If we write a policy, we set the effective date to be immediate, we're getting paid 2 days later. So I would say it's a combination of financial opportunity, not having a ceiling where anyone can be like, hey, you can't do that. Like, if anyone told me you can't do that, I'd just be like, watch me, because there's no cap. And then the other part is the pay and the fact that like I can build a family. Like the dynamic I have on my team is very special. And it's more than just money, it's more than just work. Like it's like if shit hits the fan, we're gonna show up for you. And I'm guessing it's the same thing over here. But um yeah, I mean, to answer that, that's it.
Oh, that's huge. I love that. And I think also too, one of the things for me is like it's so sustainable, right? Like everything else is a lot of it is based on the market. There's always like it's a good time for this industry, but not a good time for this industry. It's a good time for that or the market this. It's like, guys, people are always going to need life insurance, always. And actually, people are tending to see the value of life insurance even more. And it's like just continuing to grow. It's never a bad time. People aren't like, oh, the market for life insurance is bad. Like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
So I love that. So Christo, people want to know obviously the logistics. Do you have a secret sauce? Like do you leads? What's your lead flow? What's how much you spend on leads? What's your, what's your schedule? Do you run the typical FFL schedule? Like
So I'm gonna tell you this. Marissa, what time do you think I woke up this morning?
5?
2:30. I've I've developed into that, right? And I've positioned myself around different people. And the more I grow a team, like the more I gotta be right up here because my phone's just chirping all day and I'm recruiting the world while training, while selling. I mean, you know the whole grind where I have to have that time in the morning where I can meditate, where I can pray, where I can work out, do workout number one, right? And then be in a spot where I'm like, whether I feel good or not, where I'm starting at 8 a.m. every single day, like with good intentions. I'm in the right mindset. And I'm focused and like honed in on my purpose because I used to wake up and like roll out of bed and be like, oh, I'm hopping on Zoom. And like I couldn't figure out why I wasn't feeling the way I wanted to feel. But I think that's huge. And schedule wise, my thing is like if you guys are brand new or you've been here for a while, there's no reason. Let me ask you this before I say this. Is everybody doing virtual or is it in home or what do we have?
it's about 50-50.
Okay. So I'm going to speak on telesales because that's what we do for the most part. So there's no excuse that you should have where you cannot be on the phones by 8 every single morning, right? And there's a lot of people that I know that are like, "Oh, I'm a life insurance broker." Dude, you work 20 hours a week. Like you claim it's your full-time thing, but like what do you actually do? That's and because I say that because I care about people so much. It's like let's just be real. Let's be real about our schedule and like let's be real about what we're trying to do. Because if you're gonna tell Marissa, hey, like I want to make 20 grand a month, but you have a 20-hour a week work ethic, that shit is not gonna happen at all. And I want it to happen for you. She wants it to happen for you. I'm financially incentivized for my team to have that happen, and I care more than any amount of money. So schedule wise, I would go 8 to 12, dial your butt off, take a break, eat lunch, go on a drive, like whatever happened in that dial session, good or bad, like brush off, you're in for round two, right? So then I'd go 1 to 5, right? And I'd eat, do what you need to do, hit your workout. And like, here's the thing, I'm really, really big on this is if you have not hit your goals for the day, like if you're seriously like passionate and crazy about hitting your dreams and your goals, why would you stop? Like everyone people are like, "Oh, I'm off Zoom at 4:30." Like, dude, that's why this opportunity either isn't working out for you or isn't gonna work out for you. And you got to be very like extreme ownership about your schedule and what you're trying to do. And I had to get real with myself. I was depressed when I started this. Like I was waking up at like 10. I could not figure out why. I was just at that point in my life where I was like I didn't like myself. I didn't like where my life was at and I didn't know how to dig myself out of where I was at that particular time, but my schedule and my accountability level and what I say actually being parallel with what I do has increased over the last 20 months, where now I'm at a point where I wake up at 2:30, right? I'm super intentional about what I do with my life, who I spend my life with, what I think, what I listen to, and what I do, to where like elevating on that schedule, you can feel it in my voice when you're on the phone with me. Like I believe in the product. I have the product, right? I have brought friends, family, I brought acquaintances, all sorts of people into this business, and they've come because they believe in me. I just had a banker leave a couple $100,000 a year job because he believes in me. Like there's the opportunity, but he believes in what I'm doing. And that type of stuff, when you really follow a schedule, when you really work your ass off, you're going to have the deposits, you're going to have the persona, you're going to have the confidence where people can truly feel that. And sorry if I'm going on a tangent, but you guys, there's no, like, I wish there was some secret sauce, but the secret sauce is showing up and doing what you told yourself and doing what you told Marissa to do and other people that you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. But one thing I will say is like dealing with a lot of people and hiring a lot of people, after like a couple times of the first time when someone's like, hey, I'm going to do this and they don't, I'm like, hey, you just went from here to here, mental priority, because I do what I say and I say what I'm going to do. And then you do that a second time, and then you do it a third time, and then a fourth time, I'm not even texting you back, like respectfully with love. And I used to be a baby about that. And I'd just be like, oh, yeah, bro, no worries. And I'm as respectful as possible. But like, I want people to win more than they want to win because I've experienced the other side of life where I'm not winning and I don't even want to be alive, that I'm so gung ho about like what this opportunity can bring and like where you can position yourself in life. And I know you asked me about my schedule and stuff like that, but I do want to say this, you guys, I am in a position now where I'm like paying my mom for no reason, right? And like that's that's a game changer. I put my mom through hell, and like I've just incorporated that and part of like an amends process with my mother where she's watched my life change and she financially gets to reap the rewards for it too. Where like that type of stuff, it starts with showing up and working a schedule. There's leads, there's awesome leads, there's 9-month-old leads, there's whatever. But if you show
So
up,
have you sold on internet leads?
yes, I've sold on 3-month, 6-month, all of them.
So what's your advice when people are like, those don't work, or like, I need some special secret lead type? Like, what's your thoughts?
So, has anybody sold a lead that is the wrong name, wrong phone number, wrong everything on here?
I have.
Okay. So, it's weird that Marissa and I both have done that, right? And we're at the position that we're at. So, if you got to fake it till you make it or whatever it is, like you need to bring the energy and leave your life and your bullshit, like cast it out to the side when you're doing a dial session, because like I almost am at a point where I just want to buy 1 or 3-month-old leads and run a dial session where I'm just unmuted all day and people can see that process and understand. So they're like, hey, if this guy with the IQ of a squirrel that's new in this business still can do this, like I 1000% can, because I promise you, I have the IQ of a squirrel, but my execution factor is like no other. Like it's like, no, I overcompensate for where I lack in smarts. But I think it's a huge thing where you got to put the time, the effort, and the consistency where one, you believe in the product. Like we have badass products. You can replace so many policies ethically and put people in better positions from 6-month-old leads if you really learn the right word tracks. And that's what I just kind of have had reiterated from Andy Elliott was like, if you're not having your people train and they're not like ninjas on the phone, if that's your skill set, that's your craft, and it's not mastered, like what are you doing? Because if you want unrealistic income, you got to at least be dialed in there if that's what you do, because we are the highest paid telesales people that I know of. So I think the belief is huge. And like, if you think those leads don't work, I would shift your perspective. Like I meditate before I get on the phones. call me woo woo or whatever, but like I'm leaving whatever anxiety, whatever fear I have, whatever old person just told me to F off. And like I'm bringing like new energy into the phone. And like you can feel it on the other end of it. Like I believe in what we're doing. And someone's like, yeah, I already got that taken care of. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. Right. Whatever you can do, like a line that I use a lot, and you can steal this one, but you have to have the right tonality. Someone wants to get off the phone so badly with you. And they're like, oh, I already got it taken care of. Oh, I don't need that. Take me off the list, whatever it is. My word track is, can I shoot straight with you for 30 seconds? Pause. Like that, whatever reason that like captures people, their attention. I don't know why. And if you're calling old leads and you're broke or you don't think they're work, like shift up what you're doing and get around people that are actually making the money. Because I started on super old leads. I didn't have the money for anything else. And I built on top of that. So yeah, can I shoot straight with you for 30 seconds? And you have to say it with like, when I say this, can I shoot straight with you for 30 seconds? Like I care. And then I'm going to follow that with something that makes sense and is genuine, like common sense. Because sometimes I think the biggest thing is like people are not expecting a phone call when they're filling something out, or they just don't want to deal with it. But when you guys push and push and push a little bit, you really realize that like these people have cancer, they need life insurance more than anybody, or they had a bad experience prior, or they're uneducated, or whatever it is. You got to be the person that comes through on the phone or in person that changes their perspective about life insurance. You take care of them. You make sure their family members have your phone number. Like my clients are like, Christo's badass. Not all of them, but a lot of them, like they trust me by the time that I get off the phone with them, because I make sure to communicate that. And the tone of my voice is like, I care. Because I've had so many people in my personal life die without life insurance. And like, if you think about that, like my cousin was looking into getting life insurance, and I work in the life insurance space, and he died a couple months ago. Dude has 7 kids. So like, I have the stories about why you should push and why you should get out of your comfort zone. But like, no, if you don't sell that person, somebody else is, or they're not going to get a policy, and they definitely need it. Because I paid for 3 of my best friends' funerals, and it hits hard. It hits really, really hard. So push, do it respectfully, get out of your comfort zone. But like you guys, a lead is a lead is a lead. Like if you're in my position or Marissa's position, you can give me any lead. I'm gonna call it and happy. Like if someone says F off, I'm like, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm calling. Like it's just positive all the way through. You can't phase me.
Love that. And they can feel that too. Like when you get frustrated and get discouraged and you're like, oh, this sucks, or I'm having a bad day, or 3 people just hung up on me, like the next person that you call can feel that. Like they can feel that coming through.
Yeah. And I think I'll say this, the only thing that gets like rubbed raw in that situation is your ego. My life has gone so horribly that I'm just like, it's just an old person that's like not happy with where they're at, talking trash to me. I had a guy tell me today some stuff that I can't repeat on here. And I just said, look, man, I'm really sorry that you're not having a good day, but I genuinely want to help you with this because you did fill it out. And I want to make sure when that time does come, your family's taken care of. If you have an issue with that, it's totally fine. But I do need you to grab a pen and paper so I can process this request.
You did
Right.
not.
It's like lead into that. Like I think that's something that people can feel, and it will increase your sales by like 20%, then 30%, and then 50% the more you believe in yourself. So,
That's huge.
yeah.
Um, Phenomenal. I feel like all the questions I was going to ask you, you already answered them all. So that's fantastic. We have, which I'm really excited about, Chris. So we do have some new producers that are coming out the gate, or some people who maybe been here a little while. And I think that they're starting to realize that they're just leaving more on the table, and they have more to give, and they're excited to go out and reach the potential that they have. If you could leave us with like one final piece of advice for them to get started in this thing that you think is like more important than any of the other advice you've given, that you want them to remember, what is it?
So I think one thing that's huge for me is like not to sound corny, but honestly, like I would take a second and like sit with yourself and like truly reflect on like who you are, what you want to do, and like where your life is at. And maybe like write it down on a piece of paper. Like one thing that I can recommend is write down your biggest fears in life, like what you're most concerned about, where you're currently at. Get that shit out of your brain on a pen and a piece of paper. Fold that up, go put it to the side for 3 months, and then go do what I'm about to talk about. And like go check back after 3 months and see where everything is on that list that you've been concerned about. Because the question that I've had to ask myself is truth, because I've flatlined twice. I'll tell you that. Like full transparency. I have lived a crazy, crazy life. So the question I ask myself is like, what kind of life do I want? Do I want the life where I'm like scraping by and like super concerned about finances, where I'm like, hey, when I have kids, you can't get those eggs because they're too expensive. Or like, we don't know what's going on. And I'm constantly lying to my kids about how things are, where I'm going to be, and constantly holding it together. Or like, do I want the life where I can live in my purpose, be who I'm meant to be, do what I'm meant to do, and like really operate out of the best version of myself? Like, if you're at where you're at, I would read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko. It's a game changer because you realize in every single situation, like you are the problem, right? It could be the leads. Maybe you're like, oh, it's Marissa. It's not Marissa. I can tell you that. It's not the leads, right? And I've had to get really honest with myself and like truly humble myself and remind myself, like in the situations I've came from, because no matter where you're at, like I think we all have to have that conversation where it's like, I'm going to go all in. Like, do you want the life where it's half-assed? Do you want the 1992 Honda Civic? Or do you want the car of your dreams, the girl of your dreams, the house of your dreams, the stability? Honestly, screw the money, the stability of your dreams. That's what I craved. I had $200 in my account, and I'm going to share this with you guys. Don't reshare it with anybody else. It's not anything crazy, but within the 20 months I've worked at FFL, I paid off all my bills. I've paid off all my medical debt, hooked lots of people up with money that are family, like shown up for a lot of people. I've also stacked 176,000 in savings in that time period in 20 months. So like you're at where you're at right now. Maybe you're killing it. Maybe you've been here for a while. Like maybe you're just starting. Get around the right people, set the tone for yourself. Like I'm the guy right now that the little kid version of me needed. I did not have that guidance. I did not have that mentorship. Now I do that for my whole team. So like you can build whatever you want to build here. You can be a kick-ass producer and go make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, or you can be a kick-ass producer and build a huge team and ultimately make millions of dollars a year. Like 2024, I'm shooting for no less than a mil. No less than a mil. And guess what? I'm probably going to hook my mom up with 100K of that, right? Like stuff like that. That is what motivates me. It's not the money, but it's like changing the dynamic and changing every single, I don't even know how to put this, but like changing the dynamics of my family and being the example of that. So it starts with dialing, and like you're going to build it with consistency. So like when people are hard on you, like I'm sure Marissa is hard on a couple of you, like take it as a compliment because she sees something in you. And if you're like, oh, this is a lot, whatever, like put yourself in the fire, do all of it, work the schedule, do the 5, 6, 7, $800 a day, buy the leads, be accountable, and go all in, and tell me it didn't work 3 to 6 months from now. But you have to go all in. Because if you check all the boxes of what we're supposed to do here, you will wake up 6 months to a year from now with a life beyond your wildest dreams. But you do have to do the work. It's uncomfortable. I'm sweaty a lot. I have anxiety a lot, but like I am living the life beyond my wildest dreams, and I have no idea where it will be 1 year from now. So that's what I got for you guys.
That is phenomenal. I'm not going to say anything else because I'm going to leave it right there. Christo, we love you. We're proud of you. Thank you so much for getting on with us. And with that, guys, let's have an awesome week. Let's get back on the phones and let's start crushing our goals. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for having me on.